If you are over 60 and you keep telling yourself, I'm eating pretty healthy, so why do I still feel puffy, tired, stiff, or hungry again an hour after dinner? I want you to stay with me for a few minutes, because the answer may be sitting on your plate. Not in the cookies, not in the fast food, not in the obvious junk. I'm talking about vegetables. And yes, I know that sounds backwards. By this age, most people have already heard the same advice 100 times. Eat more vegetables, cut back on sugar, watch the salt, try to cook at home. So you do your best. You choose baked sides instead of bread. You snack on pickles instead of chips. You throw spinach into smoothies because it sounds clean and wholesome. And yet, your energy still dips. Your blood pressure still behaves like it has a mind of its own. Your stomach gets bloated. Your legs feel heavy by evening. Your doctor keeps mentioning blood sugar, inflammation, swelling, or medication balance. That is the part no one explains clearly enough. After 60, your body does not process food the same way it did at 30. Your muscles handle blood sugar differently. Your digestion slows down. Your kidneys and blood vessels become less forgiving. The medications that help one part of your body can also change how another part responds to sodium, potassium, or vitamin K. So a vegetable that looks innocent on the grocery shelf can affect you very differently now than it used to. I'm Dr. Jessica Williams, and in this video I want to walk you through 3 vegetables older adults should be very careful with, and 3 vegetables you should try to eat every single week. Not because they are trendy, not because somebody online called them a superfood, but because they make practical sense for the body you have now, the one that needs steadier blood sugar, better digestion, less inflammation, and fewer surprises. And please stay with me until the end, because the 3rd vegetable to avoid is the one many health-conscious adults feel the most proud of eating, and the last vegetable to start eating weekly may be the simplest way to make healthier food actually taste good without drowning it in salt, butter, or heavy sauces. That one small shift can change more than people realize. Let's start with the first vegetable because it is warm, familiar, comforting, and deeply tied to the idea of a healthy home-cooked meal. I'm talking about white potatoes. Now let me be fair right from the beginning. A potato is not poison. It is not the enemy. And if you are active, metabolically healthy, and eating small portions in a balanced meal, a potato is not some kind of disaster. The real problem is how often it becomes the center of the plate for adults over 60, and how easily it turns into a fast, heavy load of starch that the body burns through quickly. A lot of people think, I gave up bread, I don't eat cake very often, I don't drink soda, so a baked potato has to be a good choice. But once you get older, what matters is not only whether a food looks cleaner than junk food. What matters is what it does after you eat it. A large white potato, especially mashed, baked until fluffy, or turned into fries or hash browns, can raise blood sugar fast. And if you already have insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, extra belly weight, or those sleepy afternoon crashes that seem to come out of nowhere, that fast rise can become a real problem. Here is what often happens. You eat a potato-based meal, maybe with a little protein, maybe not enough fiber, maybe a little butter that makes it feel harmless because it was homemade. Your blood sugar climbs quickly. Your body tries to keep up. Then later, you feel that dip. Your energy falls. You get hungry again too soon. You start craving something sweet or salty. And because the meal did not keep you steady, you end up eating more across the rest of the day. I see this pattern all the time in older adults who are genuinely trying to do better. A man in his 60s stops eating sandwiches because he thinks bread is the issue, so he swaps lunch for a baked potato with toppings. A woman gives up crackers and starts having mashed potatoes with dinner because it feels lighter and more natural. Neither one thinks they are making a mistake, but both are setting themselves up for the same cycle. Spike, slump, hunger, repeat. And there is another layer people miss. Potatoes are very easy to overeat because they feel soft, comforting, and not particularly rich. A plate of mashed potatoes does not feel indulgent the way pie or ice cream does. That means the internal warning signal is weaker. You tell yourself it's just potatoes. But metabolically, a big pile of soft starch can hit your system much harder than you expect. That does not mean you can never eat them. It means you should stop building meals around them as if they are a neutral health food. If you love potatoes, think smaller, think occasional. Think paired with protein, olive oil, beans, or a high-fiber vegetable, so they are not landing in your system all by themselves. Cooling cooked potatoes and reheating them later may also slightly improve the resistant starch content, which can make them a little gentler than piping hot mashed potatoes. But the bigger point is portion and frequency. Once or twice in a while is one thing. Making them a dependable daily staple after 60 is something else. And if that surprises you, the next one shocks even more people because it is cold, crunchy, low in calories, and often praised as the perfect guilt-free snack. I'm talking about pickles. Pickles have one of the healthiest reputations in the refrigerator. They are vegetables, right? They are not cookies. They are not chips. Some people even believe they are good for the gut because they hear the word fermented and immediately assume the food must be doing something magical. But here is what many older adults overlook. The cucumber is not the issue, the brine is. Most store-bought pickles are loaded with sodium. And sodium becomes a bigger deal with age because your blood vessels, kidneys, and blood pressure regulation are not as flexible as they used to be. What your body could brush off years ago can now show up as swollen ankles, a tighter waistband, more thirst, more nighttime bathroom trips, or blood pressure readings that keep creeping upward even when you feel like you are eating carefully. This is why some people become so frustrated. They say, "I barely eat processed snacks anymore. I just have a couple pickles with lunch, a few with dinner, and maybe some olives or relish here and there." But the sodium from those little additions stacks up. Not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way. Quietly, repeatedly, day after day. Imagine a woman in her early 70s who is trying hard to avoid junk food. She replaces crackers with pickle spears because they seem crisp and satisfying without the calories. She adds them to sandwiches, salads, and snack plates. On paper, it looks disciplined, but by the end of the week, her rings fit tighter, her feet look a little puffy, and she wonders why her blood pressure still isn't where she wants it to be. The answer may not be the whole story, but those harmless pickles are contributing more than she thinks. And there is something else. Sodium-heavy foods train your taste buds upward. The more often you eat very salty foods, the more ordinary foods begin to taste dull. Then vegetables that could have satisfied you with garlic, herbs, lemon, or a little olive oil suddenly feel boring. That is how people get trapped. They are not just eating salt, they are teaching themselves to need more of it. Now, if you truly love pickles, I'm not asking you to act like they never existed. But stop treating them like a free food. Let them become a condiment again, not a daily snack. Look for lower sodium versions when you can. Rinse them if needed. Use a few slices with a meal instead of mindlessly reaching into the jar. And if you were drawn to pickles because you wanted crunch, try raw bell pepper, cucumber, radish, or lightly steamed carrots chilled in the fridge. You still get texture, but without the same salt burden. Because once sodium starts pushing fluid retention and blood pressure in the wrong direction, your body rarely gives you a dramatic warning. It just feels a little off. A little heavier, a little tighter, a little more tired. And that is why the third vegetable matters so much, because it hides behind one of the cleanest health halos in modern food culture. I'm talking about spinach, especially when it shows up in large raw smoothies day after day. Now again, I want to be careful. Spinach itself is not a bad food. In normal portions, especially cooked, it offers folate, antioxidants, and useful nutrients. The problem begins when adults over 60 start treating raw spinach like a daily green medicine and pack huge amounts of it into smoothies, juices, or giant salads without thinking about concentration, digestion, or medication balance. This is where good intentions can create confusion. Someone decides to get serious about health. They buy a blender. They toss in banana, berries, almond milk, and then 2 or 3 giant handfuls of raw spinach. It feels fresh. It feels disciplined. It feels like the kind of thing a healthy person would do every morning. But your body does not grade you on effort. It responds to chemistry. Spinach is high in oxalates. For people who are prone to kidney stones or who already have certain kidney concerns, taking in very large amounts regularly may not be the smartest move. Spinach is also rich in vitamin K, which is important and valuable, but if you are on a blood thinner like warfarin, big swings in vitamin K intake can become a problem. The issue is not that vitamin K is bad. The issue is inconsistency. One day no greens, the next day a giant spinach smoothie, then a huge salad, then nothing again. That kind of unpredictability makes medication management harder. And there is a third issue almost no one talks about. Raw spinach in large amounts is not always easy on the stomach. Some older adults tolerate it fine. Others end up bloated, gassy, or oddly uncomfortable and never connect it to the healthy breakfast they are so proud of. Chewing matters. Cooking changes things. Portion size matters. Blending can make it incredibly easy to consume far more than you would sit down and eat with a fork. I remember speaking with a woman who was convinced her daily smoothie was the healthiest habit in her life. She had started it because she wanted more energy. But instead of feeling better, she often felt full in a strange way. Not satisfied exactly, just heavy. She also happened to be on medication that required attention to vitamin K. No one had told her the smoothie itself was a problem in every situation. But once she stopped treating giant raw spinach drinks like a universal solution and switched to smaller, more balanced meals with cooked greens in rotation, her digestion improved, and her eating pattern became far more stable. That is the lesson. Adults over 60 do not need food theater. They do not need wellness rituals that look impressive on social media. They need meals their bodies can actually handle. If you enjoy spinach, there are smarter ways to use it. Eat moderate portions. Rotate it with other greens instead of treating it like the one perfect leaf. Consider cooked spinach rather than giant raw loads. And if you take blood thinners or have kidney stone concerns, talk to your own doctor or dietitian about consistency instead of guessing. So now you can see the pattern. White potatoes can quietly work against blood sugar balance when they dominate the plate. Pickles can push sodium far higher than you realize. And daily oversized raw spinach routines can create problems many adults never see coming. None of that means vegetables are bad. It means context matters, preparation matters, age matters. So what should you eat every week instead? This is the hopeful part because there are vegetables that work with the older body instead of constantly challenging it. They help you stay fuller, steadier, lighter, and more satisfied. And the first one is not flashy. It does not get worshipped online, but it may be one of the smartest weekly vegetables for people over 60. I'm talking about broccoli. Broccoli is one of those foods people underestimate because it feels too ordinary. It is not exotic. It is not trendy. No one is selling it as a miracle. But for adults over 60, that plain green vegetable checks a lot of boxes at once. It gives you fiber that helps with fullness and digestion. It has compounds such as sulforaphane that researchers continue to study for their role in supporting the body's own defense systems. It brings vitamin C, folate, and plant nutrients without slamming your blood sugar. And perhaps most importantly, it helps you build a meal that feels substantial without relying on heavy starch. That matters more than people realize. A lot of older adults are not truly overeating because they are reckless. They are overeating because their meals do not stay with them. They eat soft starches, refined foods, or salty snacks that feel comforting for a few minutes, then leave them looking for more. Broccoli changes the structure of the meal. It adds chew. It adds bulk. It adds that physical sense of having eaten something real. Think about the difference between a dinner plate that is half mashed potatoes and a dinner plate that includes roasted broccoli with olive oil, pepper, and garlic. One sets up a faster metabolic ride. The other gives your body more time to respond calmly. Your stomach stretches differently. Your blood sugar behaves differently. Even your cravings later can change. And broccoli does not have to be miserable. That is where so many people go wrong. They only know it as overboiled green mush from years ago, so they assume healthy food equals punishment. But roasted broccoli with a little olive oil can develop crisp edges and a deep, almost nutty flavor. Steamed broccoli can be tossed with lemon and herbs. It can go into soups, omelets, stir-fries, grain bowls, or simple side dishes with fish or chicken. It is flexible enough to appear several times a week without getting boring. I often tell older adults that the best healthy foods are the ones that quietly solve more than one problem at a time. Broccoli helps with meal volume, fiber, blood sugar steadiness, and nutrient density in one move. That is efficient. That is practical. And when you repeat practical choices week after week, the body notices. But if your stomach has become more sensitive with age, or if raw vegetables sometimes leave you feeling uncomfortable, the next weekly vegetable may be even more useful because it is gentle, familiar, slightly sweet, and easier to enjoy consistently. I'm talking about carrots. Carrots are one of the most dependable vegetables for adults over 60, and they deserve more respect than they get. People tend to think of them as basic lunchbox food or something you throw onto a party tray and ignore. But carrots, especially cooked carrots, can be a wonderful fit for the aging body. First, they are usually easier on digestion than a lot of raw vegetables. As people get older, that matters. The digestive system often becomes less forgiving. Some adults do beautifully with raw salads. Others get bloated, uncomfortable, or simply stop eating vegetables altogether because raw food feels like work. Cooked carrots solve that problem. They soften well, they taste naturally pleasant, and they provide fiber without the same harshness some people feel from rougher vegetables. Second, carrots bring beta-carotene, which the body can convert into vitamin A, a nutrient important for immune function, skin, and especially vision. And vision is not a small issue after 60. When I talk to older adults about eating well, I am not just thinking about weight. I am thinking about independence. I am thinking about being able to move through the world confidently, prepare your own meals, read clearly, drive safely if you still drive, and stay strong in the ordinary routines of life. Supporting your eyes is part of supporting your freedom. Third, carrots can help satisfy the taste buds in a very strategic way. They have a natural sweetness, especially when roasted, which makes them a helpful bridge for people trying to cut back on sugary sides, glazed dishes, or bread-heavy meals. A warm plate of roasted carrots with a little olive oil, black pepper, and herbs gives you comfort without the same metabolic backlash you might get from more refined or starch-heavy foods. Picture an older adult who always wants just a little something after dinner. Not because they are greedy, because the meal never fully settled them. When they start including vegetables like carrots that provide gentle fiber and a touch of natural sweetness, something interesting happens. The sense of deprivation drops. They are not constantly negotiating with cravings because the meal actually feels complete. Carrots are also incredibly practical. You can roast them, steam them, add them to soup, puree them into a soft side dish, slice them into stews, or keep them ready in the fridge. They hold up well. They are affordable, and unlike many so-called superfoods, they do not ask you to build your whole life around them. They simply show up and do their job. And that is why I love them for this age group. They are not glamorous, they are reliable. When your goal is to feel better consistently, reliable matters more than glamorous. But there is one more vegetable you should work into your week, and in my opinion, this last one may be the most powerful of all because it helps solve the problem that ruins so many otherwise healthy eating plans. Flavor. I'm talking about mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of the smartest vegetables older adults can eat regularly, not because they are magic, but because they make healthy meals more satisfying in a very grown-up, realistic way. They have that savory, rich, almost meaty quality people often describe as umami. And that matters because one reason many adults struggle to eat well is not lack of knowledge, it is boredom. They know what they should eat, but the food feels flat, repetitive, and joyless. So eventually they drift back to heavier sauces, salty sides, or oversized portions just to make dinner feel worth eating. Mushrooms can change that. They add depth without needing piles of salt. They bring texture without needing a mountain of starch. They can help a vegetable dish feel hearty enough to satisfy someone who would otherwise reach for more meat, more gravy, or more processed food. And that is one of the most overlooked skills in nutrition after 60. Building meals that are healthy enough to help you and appealing enough that you will actually keep eating them. Nutritionally, mushrooms also bring more to the table than many people realize. They provide B vitamins, useful minerals, and unique antioxidants such as ergothioneine that have attracted attention in aging research. Some mushrooms, especially those exposed to ultraviolet light, can also contribute vitamin D, which is worth paying attention to because vitamin D status becomes a real conversation as we age. But even without turning them into a science lesson, mushrooms are valuable for a simple reason. They help older adults eat better without feeling deprived. Imagine replacing part of the meat in a dish with sautéed mushrooms. The meal still feels rich and savory, but often sits lighter. Imagine adding mushrooms to eggs, soups, or a stir-fry with broccoli and carrots. Suddenly the plate feels complete. You are less tempted to drown everything in cheese sauce or chase flavor with salty packaged sides. That is a big win. I have seen people transform their eating just by learning how to use mushrooms well. A woman who thought healthy dinners were always dry and dull starts sautéing mushrooms with onions, garlic, and a little olive oil. A man who used to need a huge baked side to feel satisfied begins adding mushrooms to his protein and vegetables and notices he is full sooner. These are not flashy changes, but they are exactly the kind of changes that last. And there is another reason I like mushrooms for adults over 60. They fit beautifully into the real world. You do not need a blender. You do not need powders. You do not need a cleanse. You need a pan, a little patience, and the willingness to let simple food develop flavor. That is often where health turns around. Not with a dramatic promise, with a smarter dinner. So when you step back and look at the bigger picture, the message is not that aging means becoming afraid of food. It means becoming more intentional about which foods truly support the body you have now. White potatoes can be too easy to over-rely on and can work against stable blood sugar when they keep showing up as the main event. Pickles can turn a healthy intention into a sodium overload you never meant to create. Giant daily raw spinach smoothies can look virtuous while creating problems with digestion, oxalates, or medication balance. On the other hand, broccoli gives you fiber and structure. Carrots give you gentle nourishment and natural sweetness. Mushrooms bring depth, satisfaction, and a way to eat healthier without feeling punished. That is the shift I want for you. Not perfection, not fear, not a long list of foods you are never allowed to touch again. Just a more honest question at mealtime. Is this helping me feel steady, lighter, and stronger? Or is it creating work for my body that I no longer need? After 60, health is rarely built by one grand heroic act. It is built by the quiet repetition of better choices. A starch that becomes a smaller side instead of the center. A salty snack that turns back into an occasional condiment. A trendy smoothie habit that gets replaced by real meals. A dinner plate that slowly fills with vegetables that support energy, digestion, circulation, and satisfaction instead of fighting them. And I want to gently remind you of something important. This is not a substitute for your own medical care. If you have diabetes, kidney disease, high blood pressure, a history of kidney stones, digestive disease, or you take medications such as blood thinners, please talk with your own doctor, pharmacist, or registered dietitian before making major changes. The right food pattern is not about blindly following a list. It is about understanding your body, your labs, your medications, and your goals. But if you take one thing from today, let it be this. A vegetable is not healthy just because it is called a vegetable. What matters is how it behaves in your body now, at this stage of life. That is where wisdom begins. And that is where better energy, better stability, and better aging often begin too. I'm Dr. Jessica Williams, and if this message helped you, share it with someone who keeps trying to eat healthier but still feels like their body is working against them. And if you want more simple, practical guidance in plain English, subscribe and stay with me. You do not need a perfect diet overnight. You just need your next few choices to be a little smarter than your last few. That is how real progress happens. One meal at a time, 1 week at a time, one body-honoring decision at a time.